Hello, we are here at the Midwest LSA Expo, a bright sunny day. I'm Dan Johnson. I'm talking today with Nick Otterback. Nick is with the Arion company that makes this really handsome Lightning. We talked about the Lightning before, but there's some differences to the Lightning that we want to talk about now. But before we get to the nitty-gritty of the airplane, I'm kind of looking at this when I walked up, Nick, and I'm noticing some really fat letters. These are, your end numbers are so big and so thick, they're almost hard to read. How come you got such big letters like this?
Well, Dan, as you know, earlier in the year, we volunteered for a practice audit from the FAA of manufacturers. And, you know, they're there to see what you're doing right, see what you're doing wrong. And we had a good clarification on end number sizing and detail, and this is the result.
And this is the result. So a 3 almost looks like a 0 or an 8 or something else, but this is what the regs prescribe.
Exactly what the regs prescribe, yep. And so we designed some new end numbers and had them look at it even before they left, and they said that's what we want. So that's what we did.
Well, I'm glad you put it that way, because I would say you have one of the prettiest airplanes. I've told you this before, in the whole LSA space. We got a lot of great airplanes. That's not my point, but this is certainly one of the prettiest. Smooth, sleek, beautiful, flies nice. We'll talk about that more in a minute. But you have some of the ugliest letters I've ever seen on your airplane, so I guess we won't blame you for that. But
they'll be there for good.
Let's talk for just a second, because this stuff's dull and boring, but there's a good side to this that I see. So FAA came out. When we visited, you told me you had 6, count them, 6 people walk in the building.
Yes.
Each opened up a laptop, each had a whole laundry list of things they were going to go over. Each section is a standard, I guess. And that had to be a little scary, didn't it?
It was intimidating to see 3 rollback carts with laptops, and these weren't just your FSDO administrators. They were all from the directive.
From DC,
either DC or Oklahoma.
Or Oklahoma.
And they spent 3 long days with us.
3 days,
Yep.
6 people. So there's, at minimum, there's 18 man hours of well-paid federal people, plus each of you guys, no doubt, sitting there at least with sweat running down your back a little bit. And so what's the outcome? So they found some stuff, right?
Oh yeah, sure. I mean, they're
always going to find some
they
stuff.
said, you know, the industry. We've seen these shortcomings in the industry. There's some things that are good, some things are bad, and we're about on par. But we still had some stuff we had to take care of. And so, as part of our outbrief, they gave us a list of we want to.
Here's some things you need to do.
And we want an action plan. We submitted that. Said great. We said here's the things that are finished up. We're all done with that. And you know, now here we are. That was April, and we're still registering airplanes.
Yeah, I know it's not their practice to come back and say you're all good now, because they never say you're all good.
No, they don't.
But they have not stopped the registration of new airplanes.
Nope.
Which is a way of saying, well, let me back and put it the other way. If they did not like what they saw, you wouldn't be registering airplanes yet. So in effect, they did like what they saw.
I would think so. You know, we corresponded. They were very readily available through emails and phone calls to correspond throughout the process afterwards, to give them paperwork or documentation that was what they wanted to see in formats they wanted to see, and. You know, I haven't heard from them in quite some time. So
that's what you want. Kind of like the IRS not calling you, right?
I believe what we've done is and again, I see they're planning on after March 2013 to start field audits again, and they said we'll come back and we'll see how you're doing.
Yeah,
you know?
we're going to talk about that some more, but let's sum this up for what's important for people that are watching this on their computer or their device right now and are going, ooh, what does that mean? You got visited by FAA? Mm-hmm. Well, first of all, it means this. You did get looked at very thoroughly. Yes. 6 people, 3 days. That's a lot of high-powered time. You know, they got time to look in every nook and cranny and all of that. They looked you over very thoroughly. They found a couple things. You fixed a couple things, and now you're good to go again. So in a sense, this is a newly FAA-approved airplane.
You could think of it that way.
And therefore, buying one is that much more safe for someone who says, not safe in the flying sense, it was always that. It's safe in the sense of, well, is this airplane, are they going to be able to stay in business? Is FAA going to come down on them? Well, no, FAA came and visited, and you got good enough marks out of it that you are now registering again, business back to normal.
Yes.
Great. Well, let's go to some more interesting stuff. That's great. Congratulations for meeting and dealing with that.
No problem.
Had to be a little scary. I'm glad I wasn't in your shoes.
You know, but if you work with them, they work with you, and that's what is important about it.
Nice way of ending that segment. Let's talk about the airplane now. We got to go fly in the airplane. It looks pretty much the same.
Yes.
Except it doesn't. There's something different about the tail. What's going on with the tail that you changed?
The horizontal tail on this airplane we're calling our Mark II tail. It's almost 4 square feet larger for total tail volume, and the airfoil is
That's
the
quite
same.
a bit.
Yeah, it's quite a bit.
Quite a bit
the
more
old tail
area.
was kind of back here somewhere and tapered forward. The airfoil is exactly the same at the root as it is the tip. Our old tail, same airfoil, but about 70% the size. So everything got smaller. So you can imagine less airfoil or less tail size, different airfoil, a lot less tail force, a lot less stabilizing force. So larger tail, same constant chord airfoil, very, very stabilizing.
So kind of show me again, let me cross in front of the camera here. Show me again how, what I see now here, there's a taper to the trailing
and that
surface,
that
the
stays
elevator.
the same.
But the front now looks straight, and it did not used to be, right?
Right about here is about 4 inches forward.
Okay.
And to about here. So you can
Okay,
imagine.
so this is the added part
Yep,
right here then.
you can imagine pretty much the entire full size.
Oh yeah, right, okay.
completed
It's
out.
almost
Yep.
like flopping it over and getting a
Yep.
mirror image of it.
And much thicker the whole way through.
And a broader surface, so it's working harder out here at the tip.
Yes.
In addition to being larger.
Right. Yeah. So our stabilizing force, instead of being a smaller portion, is much larger now. Just in area and airfoil size.
And Nick, why did you do that?
Well, we did that because as an evolution of the airplane, we continually try to improve the aircraft for the market that it's in. When we first started the Lightning, it was a pocket rocket, go fast little toy. And now as we go into light sport and we go into the market, it's more of a cross-country purpose-built aircraft. And the ability to trim up and stay put and not move for the next 30, 40 miles without an autopilot is really good. For our customer base. The other thing is this tail really talks to you. Dan had a chance to fly it. I think he could tell you about that. But
Primarily in pitch is what we're
pitch,
talking about
yes.
here, of course. It's
Yeah,
the elevator and it's the horizontal stabilizer. But in the older one, obviously you have a lot more time in both of them, so you can speak more to this. But what I remember was it was a little light in pitch. And if you kind of did this, whether deliberately or however, you got a lot of action from it, and you felt like it kind of had to stay on it a little more. Now it was softer is the word I would use, I guess, and yet that sounds like it didn't perform, but it did. It still got all the power you need, but it was easier, friendlier.
Yeah, it has actually more tail or more horizontal tail effectiveness. It's a much more effective tail. The elevator actually moves half as less as it did before, but the stick movement is the same. So when you make a movement in the cockpit,
so the actual motion back here is less.
But your stick movement is the same as before. So when you make a motion, the plane doesn't all of a sudden want to make a correction. That doesn't make it soft because it's still powerful. It makes the feeling a little bit heavier. You can feel the forces on you. This tail wants to stay on speed all the time, and so if you trim it for 80 knots. If you get 85 or 80, 90 knots and you're 10 knots off of what you were trimmed, you can feel it in the stick. If you're coming into land and you have it set up for 60 knots, nice and pretty, and you start getting slow,
you're going to have to be
you're
working
like,
at it a little more.
wow, this is really. And the plane,
Whereas the older one, you kind of just pulled it back and you didn't notice
and you didn't notice really, maybe a few pounds, but.
Right.
You had to pay more attention to your instruments that told you what the plane was doing. Now the plane talks back to you.
So the motions are nicer for somebody that doesn't fly as much.
Right.
And that's important because most of us don't get to fly as much as we'd like.
Right. And that was the main point.
And we're all getting a little older too, Dan, and we're really not as fast as we used to be on some of these controls.
Some of us do have that problem. Okay, fine. It affects all of us a little bit.
Well,
and you're right. But when you can design an airplane then that accommodates that and still runs like this one does, because it's still top of the category as far as get going in a straight line and fly fast and handle nicely
we
and look darn good.
We jokingly call it a high performance LSA, although people are, why is it doing that? Well, it's quick and fast. And,
I would say it is because there are some that aren't this fast, so therefore it's high performance. I think that's legit.
So is this airplane available only as LSA now, or is it still available as an experimental airplane?
Go through that for us, and then tell us the relative numbers of how many of each.
It's still available as a kit. We've been selling kits since 2006. All of the new aircraft have this tail. So any new kits or LSAs delivered have this tail. There's no other option to get any other way. There's 20 LSAs, SLSAs in the U.S. flying. There are 2 in Australia. We have a bilateral with Australia. We build them over there. So that's 22 of those. There's just a little over 100 kits that are finished.
Okay,
flying
so a
total.
lot of kits are flying.
So
Now, most of those are experimental amateur.
they're all amateur. There's one ELSA.
You got one
There's
ELSA. Because you
but
can't do an ELSA until you have an SLSA,
SLSA.
and you had the kit first. So that's really where you got started.
Yep, we got started. I think it was a good benefit to us. We got to build kits and get a lot of input from builders on how things should go together and how things should perform and fly, and that was really good for us to do that for several years before we sold the light sport. So.
One more question then, and then we're going to ask you where we get even more information.
Sure.
Is this tail retrofittable in any way to the older ones?
Absolutely. Instead of having the builder have to remove their old tail, because a lot of builders, this is a removable tail on this aircraft because it was the first one with it, and we wanted the option.
There's a seam in here that
there's
shows that
Now
off.
most builders fill this all in just for
Sure.
looks. It's not structural. What we have developed is we have a carbon fiber cuff. It's one layer of carbon, and it's got a little bit of core on the leading
really?
edge. It slides right over the existing tail. So in about 5 hours worth of work, they can put it on, and then a few more works of body filling and paint work, and they can put the tail on. They're a quarter pound aside. So
Wow,
so you
is
can
that right?
add about a pound maybe at the most to the back of the aircraft.
With paint, with
paint,
some
filler, and glue
all the
and
rest.
stuff like that. So
Gee, that's,
completely retrofittable. I think we're selling the tails for about $1,200. So the cuffs. So it's pretty economical for the builder, I think.
Well, I'd say that's a great way to update your airplane.
Yes.
Not that there's anything wrong with
Nope.
it the way it was. If you
No.
got used to it and you love it, well, stick with it. But, you know, with every airplane you buy, you're going to sell it someday.
Yep.
And the selling of it would be better, I think, with the cuff added to an older model.
Yeah, it is. I mean, we've got our whiteboard at home has a list of about 15 aircraft long that are all ordered the kit.
Is that right? Cool.
And so we're shipping those.
Cool. So that's 15 out of 100 and, kits that are going to go through that, and I'll bet you some more as we go
Oh
along.
yeah, I'm sure. Excellent.
Nick Otterback from Arion Aircraft. Tell us where we go get more information about your airplane and your company.
Flylightning.net is our website, and just get on there. Everything you want to know is on there. 931-680-1781 is the phone number. So.
Very good. I did get a chance to fly this airplane. I have reported on the earlier one. I'll have some more information about the tail. That information is available on my site, bydanjohnson.com or bydanjohnson.com. Thanks so much for watching.